Hello, my name is Justin Cha. I'm a public policy intern with CSD. Please be advised the content in this video is sensitive. I'm here to talk about human trafficking. Don't be misled by the name. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. According to the International Labor Organization, or ILO, human trafficking is a $150 billion industry across the globe, including here in the United States. There are 5 different types of human trafficking: sex trafficking, labor trafficking, organ trafficking, child soldiers, and debt bondage. Traffickers target victims based on an assessment of their vulnerabilities. They are looking for people who can be emotionally manipulated, physically intimidated, sometimes due to disability, or financially exploited with promises of an eventual payout. Traffickers use these vulnerabilities to control their victim, either through direct threats and manipulation or by involving threats to loved ones. All of this has a single goal: to profit from forced labor or prostitution of their victims. Deaf and hard of hearing people can be victims of human trafficking as well. I want to thank Cam, a survivor of exploitation and debt bondage, for being brave enough to share his experience with human trafficking 7 years ago. Cam was born deaf in Mexico and moved to the United States for a better education and access to resources. Cam's parents worked at a farm alongside many other immigrants with limited English proficiency, all of whom feared to resist American people in any way, for fear of being deported to Mexico. Cam's childhood was a challenge because he lacked a deaf identity and didn't have a sense of his own independence. He eventually moved out on his own, but unfortunately had a few unhealthy relationships. Cam moved in with his best friend Rachel and shared with her a business idea he had, fueled by money he'd received from a lawsuit. Rachel responded with questions about Cam's overall financial situation, all of his assets and income, then suggested that she use his money to finance a drug deal. Although he was taken aback by this illicit suggestion, Rachel assured him that he wouldn't have to be directly involved, and she would take care of everything. How could he turn down this golden opportunity to work less and make more? Little did he know, he had just signed his life away. Rachel soon asked for all of Cam's income to be signed over to her. She insisted she would take care of him, make sure that he was safe, if only he would tell her everyone he talked to, who he dated, when he spoke to his family. All she asked for was his entire life. The situation only worsened, as Rachel wasn't satisfied with Cam's income, demanding thousands of dollars that he didn't have. Without any other options, Cam turned to his parents to borrow money time and time again. But this could only go on so long before his parents grew suspicious, demanding to know why Cam needed such huge sums of money. He wouldn't tell them. He wasn't willing to put them in danger. Rachel had already spied on his family, threatened to kidnap his niece, and even murder his pregnant sister and her unborn baby. Finally, Cam had had enough of the terror and stress and confessed to his family that his best friend Rachel had been exploiting him. His family contacted the police, and eventually the FBI also got involved. The investigation ended with a SWAT raid of Rachel's house and arresting her for human trafficking. The court proceeding lasted 12 months, and although Cam was exonerated, it didn't feel like a victory. He was now suffering from anxiety, PTSD, and other psychological scars that remain to this day. Human trafficking survivors like Cam can't ever truly recover from their ordeal, saddled with the constant worry that if their traffickers track them down, they could hurt them or people around them they care about. Cam also didn't have clear access to communication with interpreters at support services or deaf services. Cam's story, along with others, helped to push for the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000, or TVPA. This critical legislation allowed the U.S. to recognize human trafficking as a new and emerging crime. The TVPA also encourages law enforcement and courts to establish specialized divisions for investigating and prosecuting human trafficking cases. TVPA has also evolved to keep pace with new exploitation strategies. For example, U.S. citizens living abroad who participate in sexual exploitation of children are still subject to the TVPA, even while on foreign soil. Nonprofits and researchers are also involved in the fight against human trafficking. Ignite, a deaf-run organization in Rochester, New York, reported the story of working with one deaf sex trafficking survivor. That survivor was not able to live comfortably or go to Gallaudet University because her trafficker was aware that the deaf community is small and he would be able to easily find her. Eventually, she successfully changed her name and still closely monitors what she shares on social media to stay safe from her victimizer. Professor Melissa Wither from the University of Southern California shared an article she wrote called "The Under-Recognized Victims of Trafficking, Deaf Women," in which she explains that deaf and hard-of-hearing populations experience abuse about 1.5 times more frequently than those without hearing difficulties. There are some big questions here. With millions of people suffering from human trafficking, what percentage of those people are deaf or hard of hearing? Unfortunately, hard data isn't available. We can only make an educated guess. Research related to deaf and hard-of-hearing people who were trafficked is scarce, but one thing is clear. Better access and more accommodations are needed to help prevent trafficking and support victims. Also, collaboration between local, state, and federal agencies working with deaf and hard-of-hearing abuse and human trafficking organizations is critical. This would ensure a standard level of communication access for deaf and hard-of-hearing people to ensure that they have resources, regardless of where they are in the United States. Cam didn't have access to psychotherapy services offered in California, but after moving to another state, ended up with access to those services. My last important point is that we as a community are also accountable, because the deaf and hard-of-hearing community is small. It's incumbent upon us to continue to share this issue and all become more conscious of the challenges of human trafficking. Finally, I wanted to share a really heart-wrenching story from Cam, a moment he decided to change his life using his own courage and strength. Cam got into his car one night through a haze of tears, thinking about taking his own life. He was depressed, apathetic, couldn't see a way out. Rachel, his victimizer, screamed at him, but it made no difference. He floored the accelerator and rocketed to almost 100 miles an hour over a really steep hill, and was dreaming about just crashing the car, taking flight, and dying. However, when he looked up, he saw hanging from his rearview mirror a cross that his mother had given him for protection, to make sure that he was safe. In that moment, he felt like he woke up. He slammed on the brakes and came to a stop. He turned around and went back to his family to end his human trafficking nightmare together. Thank you.